Viewer beware, you're in for a scare.
This podcast is not suitable for children or those who are easily disturbed. Spoiler warning for whatever is in the title of this episode.
And now for the obligatory socials. Please like, share and subscribe. You can find the podcast on Twitter at HorrorPod69. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Slasher and Goodreads. Become part of the Disturbed community by asking for the Facebook group and Discord links. Send dick pics to the Horror of Babylon podcast at gmail.com. Support the show at patreon.com/thehorrorofbabylon. In closing, you can let your friends know that The Horror of Babylon is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible and all other major podcast apps.
Skipper Matthews has an awesome comic book collection. His favorite one is called The Masked Mutant. It's about an evil supervillain who's out to rule the universe. Skipper can't get enough of the mutant until one day he gets lost in a strange part of town and finds a building that looks exactly like the mutant's secret headquarters. A building that appears and disappears. Has Skipper read one too many comic books? Or does the masked mutant really live in Riverview Falls? Welcome to episode 137 of the Horror of Babylon, where we discuss The Masked Mutant by R.L. Stine. I am Ryan, and with me as always is Daniel. Say hi, Daniel.
You cannot fool me, foul villain. I know you're not really Ryan.
I'm not. I'm the comic book copy of Ryan. Or I'm the molecule man.
Yeah.
I hire him to impersonate me sometimes until I get bored and I murder him. Why? If he worked for you, why'd you kill him? I'm a supervillain. I do bad things. And you know who else does bad things like wasting their money on stupid podcasts?
Our patrons.
Thank you to Abigail the First, Breaker of Chains and Mother Dragons, and
Logan,
the Full Metal Patron, and Ben the Fourth, Patron of Hope, and Mia the Fifth, the Rainmaker.
She makes it rain, yo.
Oh, she makes it rain. And Sierra the Sixth, the Keyblade Patron. And thank you to Four Horsemen Comics and Gaming, which is just starting to sell the Masked Mutant comics. You can pick up the newest issue at the Morgantown Mall in Morgantown, West Virginia, the Mall Robinson in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You can shop online at fourhorsemen.tcgplayerpro.com. And if you make it in the store, say hello to Ronald III, the Grampus of Christmas, who is the semi-molecule man. He can only change molecules to make things smaller.
I'm sure there's a niche for that.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. Trigger warning, comic book nerds. Yeah.
Silver Age comics.
Yeah.
More on that later.
Yeah. Our history with Attack of the Mutant. Go ahead.
I think this is my first time reading this one. I've definitely seen the adaptation.
I don't think I've ever seen the adaptation. We had this one on audio cassette, and we used to listen to Goosebumps books on tape on the way to and from school. So I had heard this one dozens of times. So it was a big treat. This is one of my favorites, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
All right, so jumping into covers, there's not as many for this one because this one has not been printed nearly as much as the other ones.
Yeah, but that's still kind of sad.
Yeah, it is.
Because this has been fun.
Yeah. So we do have the original cover with art by Tim Jacobus.
So, I saw this cover, right? Mm-hmm. And I instantly thought of The Little Mermaid. The penis in the castle.
Yeah. Yeah, great. I'll never unsee that. Does your penis have a green tip?
Yeah.
Is it just some kind of fungal infection?
I'm afraid to go get it looked at.
I really like the Masked Mutant's costume.
Yeah, no, it's a baller costume.
Yeah. I've always liked this car. It's not as iconic as like the Werewolf of Fever Swamp or the Haunted Mask, but it's
fun.
Yeah, it's a pretty decent cover.
It invokes comic books.
Yeah, and like Libby's description of of the building is right. It doesn't look like a building that someone in real life would actually build.
Yeah, it looks fucking stupid.
Yeah, like nobody would like use that color scheme.
You know, Little Mermaid jokes aside, it also kind of looks like something you'd see in like an Aquaman comic.
Yeah, it kind of does.
Just something like really flamboyant.
Yeah, I like it though.
But not over designed, because it's very simple, but it's still
very phallic and just a very extreme color pairing. Yeah,
which is also comic booky.
Although in the picture it appears to be surrounded by woods, not in a town, but I bet he can move his base.
I also think it's probably easier to draw trees than a bunch of buildings.
Yeah, probably. Okay, so now we're going to go to the UK cover, which I hate.
I don't like this one.
It's just...
I'm the Master Mutant!
His mask reminds me of Zex from Gundam Wing.
I can't do a good Zex impersonation.
No, I can't either. But
where's Hef?
Yeah, he might be able to.
He's pretty good at impersonations.
Yeah. They all of the UK ones have like this bubbly background, and they just change the color on it.
I think they just want to always use the monster blood or the monster slime.
Yeah.
And they're just like, it all comes from that.
Yeah. Oh, so you may have noticed we went straight to the UK one. There is no American reprint cover because it was only reprinted once in 2001, and they used the same art and gave it a just like a purple back, like they've done for a lot of the other ones. But then, like, there wasn't a recent reprinting because, like, just taking... so let me just go to another one real quick. Night of... Okay, so this is the original... yeah, this is the 90s cover, and then they did a big reprint in 2001, and they all look like... They all have the original art, but they just have, like, a different border on it. Mm-hmm. And then... in like 2012 or something, they reprinted a bunch of them with new art. They didn't include Attack of the Mutant in that reprint.
Boo!
Yeah, I also agree. So it actually hasn't been in print since 2001, I believe. Okay, and then here's the French cover, which is also not great, in my opinion.
It looks French. Where's, hold on. Fuck. What's the name of the actor that, played Leon the Professional?
Jean Reno.
Yeah, Jean Reno should play this version.
I think this looks like a superhero from, like, The Tick or something.
You know what it kind of looks like? The original Batman design. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
I think I have, yeah. I've seen, like, those... images that have him from like every decade, like okay, so let's jump in, and there are no Asian ones like this. Yeah,
they would have done great,
or if they are, they weren't included on the wiki. But this book is not as heavily printed, and that also goes over to the TV show, but we'll get into that in background.
The vampire's a pure myth, superstition. I may be able to bring you proof that the superstition of yesterday can become the scientific reality of today.
Welcome to Background. This book was written by R.L. Stine. It was published November 1st, 1994. It is number 25 of the original Goosebumps series. It has no sequels, no spin-offs, despite it being like the comic book one, the easiest thing to make sequels for. It has none. It does have a TV show adaptation that was Goosebumps Season 2, Episodes 2 and 3. There was an audiobook adaptation from Disney, from the Disney Recording Studios. And there was a PC video game from the 90s for Windows. And I believe it actually included footage from the TV show. So the other thing I wanted to mention is that I think I have this in the notes for the TV show episode, but this episode of Goosebumps was never released on VHS. It wasn't... Let me actually just pull up that. It didn't have a home video release until 2011.
Wow.
When it was released on DVD. So I don't think I've ever seen it.
Well, that's going to be fun.
And that's that. Another story in the classic, infallible 3-act structure. Good enough for Aristotle, good enough for The Simpsons.
Mr. Sislak, I have a feeling there's going to be one more act to this story.
Well, I'm not hanging around for that. 4 acts.
Okay, structure and themes. How do you think this one compares to the other ones we've read?
I really like this one, but I'm kind of biased because I'm a comic book nerd.
Same.
I think like focusing on just this one main character helps a lot. Because there's not like a lot of juggling in this one.
No, it's very Skipper-centric, and it's just him and his interactions with 2 or 3 other characters.
Yeah,
really.
like his weird stamp friend.
Yeah, Wilson.
Wilson.
Wilson. So, writing-wise, I think it's closer to The Haunted Mask in that there's like a real story and a real arc.
Yeah, like there's stuff going on.
It's not just like one gross out after another like some of the other stuff, but it also isn't nearly as deep as The Haunted Mask is.
I also don't know R.L. Stine personally, but this honestly, like, it reads to me like somebody who's heard about comic books, but maybe didn't read a whole bunch of them.
Either that, or like he read like really old school
like
comics
as a kid.
Yeah.
But he was, to me, that kind of stuff's funny, not insulting. I was like, it's cute.
So, my next note here is the biggest theme is comic book culture, and the thing that always sticks out to me about this book is it kind of highlights the difference between people who read comic books and people who collect comic books. Now, obviously, there are people who do both, but there's hardcore collectors.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what Skipper is. And I love the dialogue from Wilson in the first scene because it does read like it's written by somebody who doesn't read comics. Like, why you put these comics in these bags?
Yeah. I'm sitting there and I'm going, oh, Skipper, buddy. That comic you just spent $50 on is going to be worth $2 in the future.
Yeah, they'll reprint it and tank its value.
He's very much a comic book speculator that got swept up in the hype.
Well, in Skipper's defense, this was written in the 90s, kind of before they started reprinting comic books. The comic collecting boom in the 90s, more books had value because they, like, these days, Marvel and DC both, they like reprint classic issues and sell them for $1. And it's just like, which is fine, like, I'm not complaining, but all the people who like invested big money back in the 90s buying tons of comic books got really burned when they started doing stuff like that.
It's also it's like when people first started collecting a bunch of Image comics because they're like, oh, these characters will be so popular in the future. And I could probably list off like I think the most popular one is Snowflame, which is a supervillain who gets his power from cocaine.
Well, after The Walking Dead.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking 90s Image.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's fair. I think Walking Dead was like early to mid-aughts.
Yeah, with like Rob Liefeld art is what I'm thinking of, and people kept buying all these but they're not worth all that much money because nobody cares about the characters. Now, I ain't saying you can't really like the Masked Mutant.
Yeah.
But maybe you should be tracking his popularity as well.
Issue 1 of The Walking Dead released on October 8th, 2003.
It's a lot earlier than I thought.
Yeah.
But also, like, I was introduced to it via the TV show.
Yeah, and it was out as a comic for a long... So when did the show come out?
And again, once you hit 30, your entire life blurs together.
7...
Hiya! Happy Easter!
Yeah, so it took 7 years to become a TV show. So, yeah. That was 14 years ago. Damn. Okay.
Yeah.
That still feels like a recent thing in my mind.
We keep mentioning that.
We need to stop. So I read on the wiki that R.L. Stine claims this book has his best twist ending of all the Goosebumps books.
I don't know.
I don't agree, but I do remember like the end of this book upsetting me as a child.
I like the twist in that I'll be mentioning this a lot, that it feels very Silver Age. Mm-hmm. You didn't actually kill me, you killed my twin clone. He-Man. I don't know why it's He-Man.
So I was just thinking, well, what do I like better? And I think I like the twist ending of Shocker on Shock Street. I don't know if you remember that one.
You'd have to give me like a synopsis.
Okay, so spoiler alert for Shocker on Shock Street. Is
that the one with the giant ant on the cover?
The giant mantis.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the whole it's the horror movie themed one.
Yeah.
And the whole premise of it is these two kids are being the first ones to test out this horror movie studio
and they're
ride.
Robots, right?
At the end, they turn out to be robots.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I remember that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's better. I think there's a lot of twists I could think of that I think are better, but this one is like an actual, I guess, twist.
Yeah, I wouldn't have. I didn't guess this as a kid, and I did remember it, but
it's not. I love the haunted mask, but it's not like her little brother just putting the mask on at the end.
Yeah, I honestly think that's one of the weaker ones because he can take it off one time.
Yeah, it's not really a twist.
Yeah,
yeah, it's just something that happened afterwards.
Yeah,
it's a very comic booky twist. Mm-hmm. But I feel like because I'm a comic book nerd in my fucking late 30s, I'm sitting here like I'm overanalyzing it. I'm like, so did the comic book character come to the real world, or is he a guy that can turn things into comic book? Like I'm sitting there trying to overthink the shit that doesn't matter.
So when he was hit by the yellow beam,
yeah,
he was turned into a comic book character.
Yeah. But where did the masked mutant start? Like,
oh, okay.
Like that's the shit I was thinking about. Like,
well, I think like it's really disappointing that this one never got a sequel, even
because you could have explored that.
Yeah, even in the later Goosebumps series, like Goosebumps Most Wanted, or
did the Galloping Gazelle used to be just some other kid that got hit with a beam?
Yeah, like what if can Skipper become one of the League of Good Guys? Best name for a superhero team ever.
The Super Friends.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
So, let's go to characters and let's talk about Skipper Matthews, aka the Colossal Elastic Boy.
I felt attacked by this character.
I also felt attacked by this character, and I also think that's why I liked it a lot as a kid.
This chubby nerd who sucks at school because he's too busy with his fantasies.
Yeah.
Because I was also a really poor student. Only for me it was video games at the time, not comics, that distracted me.
I didn't get into superhero comics until college, but I had been collecting and reading manga since like 5th grade, so
yeah,
he was pretty relatable for me. And even that aside, just being the chubby nerd kid who, I mean, I was fine with school, but like the rest of it, like being awkward, like trying to talk to girls and just like putting your foot in your mouth 100 times. Yeah.
Or
feeling like every one of your best friends is stronger, faster, smarter, better looking.
Yeah. And then you had and even like the friend he does have, Wilson, right? Because I relate to this, like you're spastically explaining something you really like, and then your friend tries to share their interest and you're like, I don't care.
I don't care. Yeah.
I'm like, come on, dude, did you have to attack me like that?
Okay, this was another thing that I found super relatable about Skipper that as I've gotten older, I've become cognizant of and try to control. But he can't understand that the people around him don't have the same amount of comic book knowledge that he does, and he interprets their ignorance as stupidity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and like even like basic like Star Wars knowledge, like sometimes like somebody will say something dumb to me like Luke and Leia are sisters, and I say like in my head like what's the matter with you?
Yeah. I literally ran into somebody that didn't know the Darth Vader twist. I'm like,
how?
That's like the one twist everyone knows.
Yeah.
It's like that in The Sixth Sense. You don't get a pass on that anymore.
Yeah, like even if you haven't watched the movie, like you know.
It's so ingrained in pop culture. But I ran into and they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I am your father. It's like the big twist.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah. I thought of you when that happened.
Yeah, I wouldn't have handled that well. Oh, no, okay, so I'm on a work call, and I'm doing a presentation, and I'm sharing my screen, and my wallpaper on my computer is C-3PO. Mm-hmm. And one of the girls I'm on the call with, she goes, oh, I really like your Tin Man. I'm like, he's not from the Wizard of Oz, he's from Star Wars. And she said, oh, well, I actually haven't seen either of those movies.
She was just trying to share her interest with what was the comic books that fake girl liked?
Actually, I have it in the notes because it's part of homework. High School Harry and Beanhead.
Okay, that's another thing, is like, because comic book culture is weird, and it's evolved several times throughout the decades. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times you'll run into stuff where people will be talking about comics, and someone will be like, oh, I like this thing, and they'll be like, that's not real comic books.
Yeah.
And Archie Comics is what I think of whenever she was talking about this.
It's supposed to be Beanhead, Jughead.
Yeah, it's like, but I'm like, well, those still have actual fans. Like,
yeah. I mean, comics is such a broad term that you could be talking about Peanuts comic strips, you could be talking about shoujo manga, you could be talking about, like, hardcore extreme horror, you could be talking about porn. And
it's like, whenever the Comics Code Authority, one of the worst things to ever happen to comics happened, and, like, decimated the different genres, like, all you could have was sanitized superheroes after that. Mm-hmm. These days, not so much, but, like, no, I don't feel like a lot of comic book nerds have grown past that still. It's still like superheroes and not superheroes.
Yeah, I mean, you've got DC and Marvel in this, and then the Image and the Dark Horse stuff is the not superhero stuff. Or if it is superheroes, it's like
Spawn.
It's like Spawn, or like, like The Boys, or what's the yellow guy with the
Invincible.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. Or Kick-Ass.
Yeah, or Kick-Ass.
But they're like alternative superhero books.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like...
Mark Miller was getting ready to write a Superman comic, and I was super excited, and then he decided not to. And his reasoning was, well, what I want to use is going to be in the public domain in a couple of years anyway, so I'm just going to wait for that to happen.
Didn't he write Superman Year One?
I can't remember if he wrote Year One, but he's written a bunch of Superman stuff that's really good. This, like, in continuity stuff he's written is actually really good, but I think it's because
it's Frank Miller.
He works really good with an editor.
I don't know why I thought it was Mark Miller.
Because those two get, like, crossed all the time.
Oh, also, the artist is John Romita Jr., and he works with Mark Millar a lot, because he's the artist on Kick-Ass.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
I still need to read Year One.
I liked episode 1 and 2 and didn't like, or I liked issue 1 and 2 and didn't like issue 3, so you'll probably like issue 3 and not like issue 1 and 2.
I'm in it for the mermaid sex. I heard that happens.
That's an issue 2.
Yeah! The Maris. Yeah. Best ship.
I was not 100% on board when Clark Kent joined the Navy. I was like, this is kind of weird. Oh, okay, mermaid. What?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's keep going. Libby Zax / The Masked Mutant.
I hate being the guy who's going to be like, oh, I called the twist of this children's novel.
I remembered it.
Yeah.
So that's not the same as calling it. I seriously doubt I called it as a kid, because I never called the end of anything as a kid. But I really like Libby, and it's mostly because just how stupid she makes Skipper look. Mm-hmm. And it's like, dude, like, I know she's a supervillain in disguise, but you don't know. If a girl asks you to come over and check out her comic book collection, you should do it.
I think a couple years ago I started making a list of all my missed opportunities, just like as I become more socially aware, and being like, oh, she was coming on to me. Oh, she was coming on to me. And so these days I try to be more hyper aware of that. And that's another thing I just found kind of relatable. It's like a girl's trying to share it. It's like when that girl got me to read Twilight, and then I stopped talking to her because I thought the book was stupid.
Yeah, I mean, you can like different things.
Yeah, that's how sarcastic I was.
Skipper can get the new Masked Mutant. She can get the new High School Harry and Beanhead, but they still get to go to the comic book store together.
Still talk about vampires, Daniel.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
We can go to the comic book store every Wednesday. She gets the new issue of her book. I get the new issue of my book. And
you can go get your Star Wars. I'll get my Superman.
Yeah, and then we'll sit together and read them and hold hands.
Yeah.
But I do think... I imagine the twist is good for kids. Like, I can't imagine most kids would see that coming.
And it also, again, it feels very Silver Age comics with the exact replica that has all your exact same powers, but it's not the actual bad guy.
And also, Libby's character feels like the sidekick character in most Goosebumps books. There's at least 2 kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no reason to from a kid perspective and how he writes to think that anything is wrong with Libby's character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you have anything to say on Wilson? I just included him because he's in several scenes.
I think I said a lot of what I wanted to say about him, but that mostly relates to Skipper just not getting it.
Yeah.
Because he's so absorbed in his thing, which I relate to.
Mm-hmm.
I did think the stamps was weird. But I'm I also like some weird shit, so I'm
yeah, I don't know a lot of people, let alone kids, who collect stamps.
I collect analog technology, like VCRs and old tape recorders. So
I've met more people who are into that than stamps, but I mean, obviously stamp collectors exist. It's a very prolific and famous hobby, so I just don't know a lot of people personally who do it.
Yeah. But his are rubber stamps, that you press with.
Yeah.
And I'm I'm curious, how did that start?
I would have went over and looked at his collection.
Yeah, I would have been I need to know, where this fascination... But I mean, if it makes him happy, these days, I'm yeah, dude, you rock your hobbies. That makes me happy.
And also, something that I wouldn't have thought about as a kid, but I think about now, is you gotta be willing to take some time and invest in your friends and their interests so that they'll do the same for you, at least if you want to continue having friends.
Yeah.
And if you're a chubby 10-year-old kid who likes collecting comic books, then you maybe want to prioritize that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even these days, I'm Daniel, you literally have this shrine to Superman in your room. You have to make time for other people's stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. The Galloping Gazelle is the last character I have listed, / any of the random superheroes they talk about.
I was expecting more from it, if that makes any sense.
So what I remember this vividly.
Yeah.
What I always associate this character with is the fact that he abandons Skipper.
Yeah.
He says, "Screw this. This guy's gonna kill me. Good luck, kid." When he's the Flash, he could have just picked Skipper up and took him with him. It would have slowed him down by a millisecond. But no, the guy's just a total dick. It just leaves this kid with the worst supervillain in the world. That always stood out to me as a kid, and it stood out to me even more reading this as an adult. I think it's kind of funny. She's like, fuck this.
He put his foot out, kid. You don't get it.
Yeah. I'm basically the Steve Rogers Clark Kent of this world. I can't risk my life for you. I need to lead a team.
I was also becoming kind of an asshole when I was sitting there with the scene, and it's a whole rant I want to talk about some other day, not on this podcast, but on my YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
Is I'm sitting there thinking, you just said you were the fastest thing in the universe, and you've ran across galaxies, but
you can't see the foot coming.
But you can't see the foot coming.
Yeah.
But I'm also sitting there, I've written this entire script going about how power scalers ruin stories because they overanalyze every little thing, where writers don't care about consistency, they care about crafting seams.
The way that I rationalize it in my head is that he was just so certain that he had already won, he wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I had the same thought.
And I'm also sitting there for some reason, like, maybe the show is slightly different. For some reason, I remember him being more incorporated in the ending and not just like buggering out.
Well, I mean, since it's Adam West, I wouldn't be surprised if they like beef up his role for the show.
Yeah.
And like more on that, like typically the way that writers depict super speed is like to the person who has the super speed, everything else is in slow motion. Mm-hmm. So you would think that he would be able to perceive the masked mutant putting his foot out. But I guess in my head, I'm just thinking that the Galloping Gazelle is like, oh, I've got him. I finally got him. Oh, fuck!
I would like to see his inner dialogue bubbles.
Yeah. I don't know why there hasn't been a comic book adaptation of this one. Like, they have a series of Goosebumps graphic novel adaptations.
It's too easy.
Yeah, I guess. It's too on the nose.
Kill you all! I'll drive you crazy, and I'll kill you all! I'm every nightmare you ever had. I am your worst dream come true. I'm everything you ever were afraid of.
Scary shit. Did this give you goosebumps?
This probably gave me the least amount of goosebumps.
Yes, with the one exception. I thought it was generally creepy.
Repeated nightmares of being alone in a building. So, like, when he got lost from Libby in there.
Yeah, the basement scene was the one I was going to imagine. Like, taking an elevator into a dark basement that you turn around and the elevator no longer works and you're trapped. Like, that was pretty creepy.
Like that. I'm like, yeah. So I can get that, but like the rest of it was just more comic book fun to me.
Yeah, and it's like it's just like horror adjacent because there's a supervillain and he's going to kill you, and
that's fine. Horror adjacent is fine.
Yeah, they don't all need to be a vampire, a werewolf. I mean, one's about a little girl who gets a mask stuck on her face. So yeah, it's totally cool.
Oh my God! Are you Stephen King? No, I'm Dean Koontz. Oh.
Kings and Koontz. Daniel, what is your king for the Masked Mutant?
I think I'm just going to go with Skipper because I really relate to him.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with Skipper / just the references to comic book culture that I find just so absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
And then Koontz
is also Skipper because I felt attacked.
Yeah, I'll say the same.
Yeah.
Say the same. All right, rankings. I do not think that this is a better written book than than The Haunted Mask. I think that's the superior book in terms of writing. But I do think I enjoy it a little more just because of the content and the specific nostalgia for me. So I have it one spot above The Haunted Mask and below The Scarlet Plague. It's my new number 24.
Alright, let's find a spot for this.
I still think Carly Beth is probably the best written protagonist we've encountered, but Skipper is the most relatable, and Carly Beth is the best written, I would say.
Yeah. I think I'm going to put it right below Eyes of the Dragon.
So it's your new number 25, above The Gunslinger and below The Eyes of the Dragon.
This one was kind of a hard place to spot for me.
And that's your second highest Goosebumps book between The Haunted Mask and Night of the Living Dummy.
Hello, Mr. Stein.
Hello, Mr. Black.
Who's that?
He's the new drama teacher.
Zombie Day. Okay, so I just wanted to list it. So in the book, only 3 members of the League of Good Guys are named, and they are the Amazing Tornado Man, the Galloping Gazelle, and Sponge Life, aka the Sponge of Steel. However, in the book Goosebumps Official Collector's Cap book, all 6 members of the League of Good Guys are named by R.L. Stine, and the other 3 are Rottweiler, the Human Guard Dog, Clara, the Claw Woman, and the Fantastic Ferret. So in this 6-member League of Good Guys, there's a ferret and a sponge and a Rottweiler and...
Oh my God, they're furries. It's a furry convention.
No wonder they lose to the Masked Mutant all the time.
The Claw.
Homework. So, I know we're both big fans. We read it both a lot as a kid. What's your favorite plot line from High School Harry and Beanhead?
Okay, it was the it was the issue where they go to score, and instead they end up getting a deadly virus implanted in their pants and travel all the way to Washington, D.C. And they're chased after one of the terrorists and the terrorist's wife, and it ends with a Hank Hill lookalike getting an anal cavity search.
Oh.
The Beavis and Butthead do America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just really like the beach episode.
For some reason, when they kept saying this, I knew it was supposed to be Archie Comics, but I kept picturing Beavis and Butthead in my head.
Yeah, that's funny. For further reading, I really like these kind of goofy, tongue-in-cheek, alternate superhero takes. One of my favorite ones is Sky High. So that's what I'm going to recommend.
Anything Silver Age, I'd say. If you can find yourself a nice Silver Age collection, because it's going to give you those same goofy vibes.
Goofer, Zebra Man.
About 1/3 of My Hero Academia will probably give you similar vibes.
Yeah. Well, I like the Mushroom Girl. Okay, so upcoming on the Horror of Babylon, next Sunday is our next book episode. We're back on the Dark Tower. It's the first Sunday in August. The 4th Hef will be here. And we're reading The Wolves of the Kala by Stephen King, which is book 5 of 7. So after that one, we only have 2 left. We'll have, in October, we'll have Song of Susanna, and then in December, we'll have The Dark Tower. And then we'll do an episode on the movie, where that'll be fun. And then we'll be done.
Am I going to need beer for that one?
So I've only seen the movie once, and I saw it when it was in theaters, and I hadn't read any of the books at that point. But from what I remember of the movie, I'm just like, were they fucking high? What the fuck were they thinking?
Yeah.
But even still, I still love the idea of Idris Elba as Roland and Matthew McConaughey as Flag. I mean,
those are good castings.
Yeah. I like it a lot. So
I feel like it's one of those ones where you could do a soft reboot and just use the same cast.
Yeah. And also the kid who plays Henry Bowers in the new It movies, he's Jake, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. And he's a good actor. And then the next Sunday, October 11th, we're doing our watch-along episode with the original Attack of the Mutant episode, which does star Adam West and James Belushi. And then, so Daniel and I each got to pick a movie to replace some of the Goosebumps 2023 bonus episodes with. And the movie I chose, which, when I talk about, the movies that scared me most as a kid, I generally mention Pet Sematary, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and tongue-in-cheek, The Dark Crystal. But another one that really truly scared me to the point where I'm generally not even willing to talk about it is a movie called The Virgin Suicides. I haven't seen it since high school / maybe freshman year of college. So that's the movie I chose.
Okay.
And we're gonna watch it, and it's gonna upset me real bad.
That might help me narrow down mine.
And it's based on a novel, so we're gonna do it backwards and watch the movie, and then maybe we'll talk about if we want to read the book after that. But
okay,
it's a real upsetting movie, really upsetting. And then we start our next movie-a-thon sponsored by Four Horsemen on August 8th, which is a Thursday, will be the first episode of the Universal Monster-a-thon. And since we've already done Dracula and Frankenstein, the first movie we're going to cover is Dracula, the Spanish edition.
Oh, I am so excited for that.
Yeah, I am too. I've never seen it. I'm going to rewatch Dracula and then watch Dracula Spanish. I've heard a lot about it, and I've been wanting to watch it for a long time, so I'm really excited.
I am also really... That'll let us have an episode where we just sit and talk about how different directors can do different things with the same script. Oh, I'm going to be such a nerd on this one. And
I assume you're going to rewatch the Bela Lugosi
100%.
Yeah.
Back to back. I'm going to do them back to back the same day.
Cool.
Mostly just because those movies are so short.
Yeah, they are. They're really easy to watch.
Yeah.
Which is we're going to do a lot of Universal Monster movies, but I'm not stressed about it like Goosebumps because they're so easy to consume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, this has been a very stress-free summer.
Yeah.
Comparatively speaking, like.
Yeah, it's been last summer trying to get through all that Salem's Lot stuff, like the book, both miniseries, Chapel Way. And
getting frustrated because they wouldn't release it onto HBO Max or theaters.
Ugh. All right. Well, someone I'm not frustrated with is our patrons. Thank you to Abigail the First, Breaker of Chains, Mother of Dragons, and
Logan,
the Full Metal Patron, and Ben the Fourth, Patron of Hope, and Mia the Fifth, the Rainmaker.
She makes it rain.
Oh, she makes it rain. And Sierra the Sixth, the Keyblade Patron. And thank you to Forestman Comics and Gaming, which you can visit at the Morgantown Mall in Morgantown, West Virginia, the Mall at Robinson in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You can shop online at forestman.tcgplayerpro.com. And if you make it in the store, say hello to Ronald III, Grampus of Christmas. You can also check out their new location downtown and that horrendous pink and green building with all the phallic towers. Like, he told me he bought it so that people would just stop to see what it is and go in, but I don't know.
Phallic symbol, phallic symbol, phallic symbol.
Penis. All right, well, thank you for reading Attack of the Mutant and recording with me.
It was a good time.
Yeah.
I've had fun with all of these books.
Yeah, they've all been great. Thank you to our patrons. Stay tuned for our socials and stay scary.
Stay scary, everybody.
And now for the obligatory socials. Please like, share, and subscribe. You can find the podcast on Twitter at HorrorPod69. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Slasher, and Goodreads. Become part of the Disturbed community by asking for the Facebook group and Discord links. Send dick pics to the Horror of Babylon podcast at gmail.com. Support the show at patreon.com/thehorrorofbabylon. In closing, you can let your friends know that the Horror of Babylon is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, and all other major podcast apps. Stay scary.